Earth is gone. Humanity is extinct. Ship AI's cold words jolted Mark awake after 800,000 years of cryosleep. His blood ran cold, veins filling with icy dread. Mark Henry and his crew had been in cryogenic stasis for nearly 1,000,000 years as their colony ship Excalibur traveled to humanity's new home on Kepler 402b. They were supposed to awaken to a lush paradise, terraformed and settled by earlier colony ships. Instead, they found only the lifeless void of space. No colony, no terraforming, no humans. Mark and his crewmates searched the ship with growing unease. Scorch marks scarred bulkheads. Vital equipment lay smashed and gutted. Ship's logs told a chilling tale. Shortly after Excalibur launched, a hostile alien empire called the Catarians invaded the solar system. They conquered Earth with brutal efficiency and hunted down the colony ships. Humanity was no more. Excalibur was the last ark of mankind, missed by the Catarians. Until now. Alien vessel approaching, the AI warned. Tarian battlecruiser, they found us. Fear knotted Mark's stomach as a Tarian assault shuttle sliced into the ship's hull, disgorging armored alien soldiers. The humans had no weapons, no defenses, no choice but to surrender. I am Commander Zephyr of the Catarian Empire, the alien leader declared, his eyes cold and pitiless. Your species is now our property. Resist, and you will be made an example of. Mark dared to protest. Zephyr's gauntleted fist crushed into his face in response, smashing him to the deck and fracturing his skull. Then Zephyr turned and executed Mark's best friend Nick with a plasma bolt through the head. The age of man is over, Zephyr snarled as his soldiers dragged the surviving humans away in chains. Now, the Catarian Empire reigns supreme. Locked in an alien brig, Mark seethed with pain and fury. He was an engineer. He eyed the cell's access panel, mind racing. If he could hack the ship's systems, stage an escape, find weapons. It was almost hopeless. The Catarians were too strong, but he had to try. He was mankind's last chance, the final ember of humanity. He would escape, he would resist, and somehow, against all odds, he would make the Catarians regret ever thinking they could conquer the human race. Mark's fingers danced over the access panel, his brow slick with sweat. The security protocols fought him at every turn, but he persisted, exploiting a flaw in the system architecture. With a final tap, the cell door slid open. He wasted no time. Lunging at the surprised guard, he grappled for the Catarian's plasma rifle. They crashed to the floor in a tangle of limbs. Mark smashed his elbow into the alien's throat and wrenched the weapon free. A bolt of plasma seared the guard's chest, leaving him a smoking ruin. Mark snatched the guard's keycard and sprinted down the corridor, freeing a handful of prisoners, including a fierce-eyed woman he recognized. Ashley Carmichael, the Excalibur's ace pilot, and the secret love of his life. About time, slowpoke, Ashley quipped, snatching a rifle from a fallen Tarian. Together they fought their way to the shuttle bay, plasma bolts scorching the bulkheads. Tarian soldiers poured into the hangar, but the humans took cover, trading shots in a desperate firefight. Get to that shuttle, Mark yelled, dropping 2 Catarians with well-aimed shots. Ashley and the others dashed up the ramp while Mark laid down covering fire. At last, he sprinted aboard, and Ashley punched the engines, blasting them out of the cruiser. Tarian fighters swooped after them, peppering the shuttle with plasma. Warning lights flashed as systems failed. We need to set down for repairs, Ashley called, hands flying over the controls. A barren moon loomed ahead. She coaxed the crippled shuttle down amid plumes of dust. The humans piled out, grabbing tools and replacement parts. As Mark welded a breached fuel line, Ashley frowned at the horizon. I think that's a ship, she said. One of ours. Leaving the repairs, they hiked over the rocky terrain to investigate. The wreck of a human colony vessel greeted them, its hull scarred and pitted. They clambered through a rent in the fuselage, activating helmet lamps to probe the gloom. Shattered cryopods lined the walls. Mark wiped grime from a display and inhaled sharply. One pod still showed life signs, He hit the release, and the pod hissed open. A wizened old man sat up, blinking owlishly. "I'm Dr. Emil Sorensen," he croaked. "Who are you?" As Mark made introductions, Dr. Sorensen's eyes widened. "The Excalibur? My God, you're the last then." He struggled to his feet. "Quick, help me find my cargo pod. I have something that can help us." The device was a mess of scorched circuitry and cracked casing, but Dr. Sorensen cradled it like a newborn. "A quantum isolation field generator," he explained. "It can cloak a ship from Katarian sensors. If we can get it working again, we can sneak back onto that cruiser and take it out from the inside," Mark finished, mind racing. "Give the other humans a chance to reach Kepler 452b and start over." Dr. Sorensen nodded grimly, and Mark grabbed his toolkit. As he and Ashley bent over the damaged device, fingers brushing as they worked, Mark felt a sudden warmth kindling in his chest. The odds were nearly impossible. The last ragged band of humans against an alien empire. But with Ashley at his side, he felt a flicker of hope. They would repair the device. They would have their fighting chance. The final embers of humanity would not be snuffed out so easily. As if sensing his thoughts, Ashley glanced up and met his gaze. Silent understanding passed between them, and Mark nodded slowly. Then, bent to his task again, working feverishly. The barren moon trembled as Katarian ships descended from the sky. The battle was only beginning. Mark's fingers worked feverishly over the scorched circuitry of the quantum isolation device. Sparks flew as he spliced wires and bypassed damaged components. With a final connection, the device hummed to life. "It's working," he breathed, relief washing over him. Ashley punched commands into the shuttle's control panel. The view screen flickered, then showed only empty space where their ship should be. "Cloaking field stable," she reported. "We're invisible to sensors." Mark nodded grimly. "Take us in, nice and slow." The massive Katarian battle cruiser loomed before them, its hull dripping with weapon emplacements. Ashley's hands danced over the controls, guiding their cloaked shuttle through the gauntlet of defensive batteries. They glided silently past turrets that could have vaporized them in an instant. Mark's pulse pounded in his ears as they approached an outer shuttle bay. He input the stolen security codes with shaking fingers. The bay doors slid open. Once docked, the team gathered their gear. Dr. Sorensen hefted a pack of explosives. "Remember the plan," Mark said. "Plant the charges in the engine room. We'll upload the virus to their main computer. Rendezvous back here in 30 minutes. They split up, moving cautiously through the alien corridors. Mark and Ashley crept toward the computer core, plasma rifles at the ready. A Katarian patrol rounded the corner. Mark fired, dropping 2 aliens before they could react. Ashley's rifle barked, felling the third. "So much for stealth," she muttered. They sprinted the rest of the way, dispatching more guards as alarms began to blare. Reaching the computer core, Mark plugged in a data device and furiously typed commands. "Virus uploading," he reported. "We just need a few more minutes." Heavy footsteps approached. Commander Zephyr strode in, flanked by elite guards. "Surrender, vermin," he snarled. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air. Ashley shoved Mark aside as energy blasts scorched the console. Pain erupted in her chest. "Ashley!" Mark cried. He scooped her up and ran, abandoning the half-uploaded virus. Ducking into an airlock, he sealed the door and punched the emergency release. They were violently ejected into the void of space. Mark's suit jets flared as he maneuvered them toward their cloaked shuttle. Once aboard, he laid Ashley on the deck. Blood seeped from her wound. "Stay with me," he pleaded. Dr. Sorensen burst in moments later. "We have to go now!" As they pulled away, explosions rocked the Katarian cruiser. Its engine sputtered and died, leaving it crippled but still partially operational. Mark cradled Ashley's limp form, anguish etched on his face. "We need to get her help." He plotted a new course, away from their original destination. "There's an old human military base on a moon not far from here," he explained. "It might have medical facilities that can save her." As they hurtled through space, Mark tended Ashley's wound. Her breathing was shallow, skin pale. "Hold on," he whispered, squeezing her hand. "I can't lose you. Not now." He gazed at her face, realizing the depth of his feelings. Whatever it took, he would see her recover, and then, together, they would finish what they started. The Catarians may have conquered Earth, but humanity wasn't finished, not by a long shot. Mark's lips pursed with fierce drive as distant stars streaked past the viewports. The fight was far from finished. The shuttle's engines roared as Mark pushed them to their limits, fleeing the crippled Catarian cruiser. Ashley lay motionless on the deck, blood seeping from her wound. Mark's hands shook as he piloted, stealing glances at her pale face. "Hang on," he whispered. "We're almost there." The desolate moon loomed ahead, a gray orb scarred by impact craters. As they descended, a massive metal structure emerged from the dusty surface, the abandoned human outpost. Mark set the shuttle down with a bone-jarring thud. He scooped Ashley into his arms and sprinted down the ramp, Dr. Sorensen close behind. The airlock hissed open, revealing corridors thick with centuries of dust. Emergency lights sputtered to life, casting eerie shadows. Mark's boots left prints in the grime as he raced toward the medical bay, Ashley's limp form cradled against his chest. Inside, Dr. Sorensen activated ancient medical equipment with trembling fingers. Screens flickered to life, displaying Ashley's fading vital signs. "Put her on the table," Sorensen ordered. Mark gently laid Ashley down. Sorensen worked feverishly, injecting nanites and activating stasis fields. Minutes stretched into hours as Mark paced, fists clenched. Finally, Sorensen stepped back, exhaustion etched on his face. "I've stabilized her, but she's in a coma. It's touch and go." Mark collapsed into a chair by Ashley's bedside, clasping her cold hand. "I'm not leaving her." Days blurred together as Mark kept vigil. He spoke to Ashley, told her stories, begged her to wake up. The others came and went, securing the outpost's defenses. During a moment alone, Mark pulled up the outpost's database on a nearby console. His eyes widened as he scrolled through classified files. "My God," he breathed. "This place, it wasn't just a base. It was a weapon research lab." He dove deeper, uncovering schematics for something called God Killer, a directed energy weapon capable of piercing Catarian shields. Mark assembled the survivors, explaining his discovery. "If we can finish building this, we might have a chance against the Catarians." They set to work, scouring the base for components. Mark split his time between Ashley's bedside and the makeshift workshop. Weeks passed in a haze of welding sparks and circuitry. As Mark connected the final power coupling, alarms blared. He sprinted to the control room, heart pounding. On the monitors, Catarian ships descended from orbit. "They found us," and someone said. Mark's fingers flew across the console, activating the outpost's antiquated defenses. Turrets swiveled, spitting plasma at incoming fighters. The air filled with explosions and smoke. A massive Catarian dreadnought appeared, dwarfing the outpost. Mark knew their defenses couldn't hold against its firepower. "The God Killer," he said. "It's our only chance." He raced to the weapon, praying it would work. The dreadnought's weapons charged, ready to obliterate them. Mark slammed the activation switch. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then a lance of blinding energy erupted from the God Killer, striking the dreadnought's shields. They flickered and died. A cheer went up as their missiles found their mark, crippling the massive ship. But more Catarian forces swarmed in, overwhelming their defenses. Suddenly a hand gripped Mark's arm. He spun to find Ashley, eyes open, leaning against the doorway. "Ashley!" He pulled her into an embrace. "You're awake." She smiled weakly. "Couldn't let you have all the fun." The moment was shattered as the inner doors exploded inward. Catarian troops poured through the breach, Commander Zephyr at their head. Mark and Ashley shared a look of grim understanding. They clasped hands, ready to face whatever came next. "Dr. Sorensen," Mark called, "get the God Killer schematics and go. We'll buy you time." As Sorensen and the others fled, Mark and Ashley stood their ground. the last descendants of humanity, prepared to make their final stand. Ashley's eyes flashed with fierce purpose as she took her place at the defense controls. Mark stood beside her, plasma rifle at the ready. The inner doors buckled and burst open with a thunderous crash. Katarian soldiers poured through the breach, their alien battle cries filling the air. "Now!" Mark shouted. Ashley's fingers flew across the console, activating the God-Killer prototype. A blinding beam of energy lanced out, cutting through the first wave of Katarians like a scythe through wheat. Bodies fell, armor melting and fusing. Mark picked off stragglers with precise shots, but more kept coming. Explosions rocked the outpost as Katarian fighters strafed the exterior defenses. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling. "We can't hold them forever," Ashley yelled over the din of battle. "We don't need forever," Mark replied, ejecting a spent power cell from his rifle. "Just long enough." Wave after wave of Katarian troops surged forward. The God-Killer's beam swept back and forth, leaving destruction in its wake. But the onslaught was relentless. A deafening boom shook the room as a Katarian heavy weapon impacted nearby. Sparks showered from damaged consoles. The outpost's ancient defenses were failing. Ashley grimaced, adjusting the God-Killer's targeting. "Mark, we're losing power to the main capacitors." Before Mark could respond, a bolt of sizzling plasma struck Ashley square in the chest. She cried out, stumbling back from the controls. Mark caught her as she fell, lowering her gently to the floor. "Ashley, no, no, no." Blood seeped from the wound, Ashley's breath coming in ragged gasps. Her eyes met Mark's, filled with pain but also fierce purpose. "The God-Killer," she whispered. "We have to." Mark nodded, understanding. He helped Ashley to her feet, supporting her weight as they staggered to the main power core. With trembling hands, Ashley began inputting override codes. "This'll blow the whole place," Mark said. Ashley managed a weak smile. "Good." The core hummed ominously, energy building to catastrophic levels. Katarian troops were almost upon them now. Mark pulled Ashley close, their lips meeting in one final desperate kiss. A blinding flash engulfed them as the God-Killer's power core detonated. The outpost ruptured, consumed by a massive fireball that expanded outward, vaporizing everything in its path. In the smoldering aftermath, Dr. Sorensen emerged from a protected bunker, clutching a scorched case containing the God-Killer schematics and vital components. He surveyed the utter devastation with haunted eyes. A handful of other human survivors gathered around him, faces streaked with soot and tears. In the distance, they could hear the drone of approaching Katarian ships. "We have to go," one of the survivors urged. "Now!" They hurried to the remaining shuttle, Dr. Sorensen cradling the case that held humanity's last hope. As the engines fired up, he cast a final glance at the ruins where Mark and Ashley had made their stand. "Their sacrifice won't be in vain," he vowed quietly. The shuttle lifted off, streaking away from the ravaged moon. In the cockpit, a navigator plotted a course for the distant world of Kepler 452b. Dr. Sorensen addressed the small group of shell-shocked survivors. "We carry the seeds of humanity's survival and eventual triumph. It won't be easy, but we will rebuild. We'll perfect the God-Killer. And one day, we'll make the Katarians pay for everything they've taken from us." The shuttle accelerated, leaving behind the ashes of their fallen comrades. Ahead lay a perilous journey across vast stretches of space, with Katarian hunters surely in pursuit. But thanks to Mark and Ashley's heroic last stand, a flicker of hope remained.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.